You bought a real cactus mix. You picked a pot with a drainage hole. You even backed off the watering can, and still, your plant is dying. The bottom leaves are turning mushy. The stem is rotting from the ground up. You probably think you watered it too much. You didn't, and it is not your fault. Here's what nobody explains at the garden center. Succulents are built to survive brutal conditions, but the soil you set them in has to behave in one very specific way. Sadly, most commercial, cactus mixes, and online hacks quietly work against that, not because you were careless, but because nobody told you the mechanics happening beneath the surface. In this video, I'll walk you through 5 soil mistakes quietly killing succulents everywhere, including mistake number 4, which is likely the single biggest killer of succulents worldwide. By the end of this, you'll know exactly why your soil might be working against your plant right now and exactly how to fix it before your next watering. Let's get started. Mistake number 1, trusting the bag that says cactus and succulent mix. This one trips people up because it feels like you did your homework. When you walk into a garden store and buy a bag labeled for cactus and succulents, you feel relieved. You assume the soil makers did all the hard work for you. You trust that this special mix is ready to pour straight into your pots for healthy growing. It is not, it will fail. While store-bought cactus soil is a little lighter than regular houseplant mix, it is still packed with fine peat moss, compost, and ground wood. In a big outdoor plant nursery with strong wind and hot sun, that wet mix dries out safely. But inside your quiet home, where airflow and sunlight are low, this potting soil is way too thick and heavy. Here is the hidden danger. Every time you water your plant, those tiny bits of compost and peat shift around. Over time, that fine dust settles to the bottom of your pot and packs together tightly. The soil collapses into a heavy, solid block. This crushes the open air spaces your roots desperately need to breathe. Your plants are left sitting in a thick, wet potting mix that slowly chokes the root system. Because the collapsed soil holds water like dense, wet clay, even a normal, careful amount of water takes weeks to dry out, turning what should be a healthy drink into a death trap for your roots. You can easily fix this. Treat store-bought cactus bags like a starting ingredient, not finished soil. Before planting, mix that bagged soil with 30 to 50% coarse rocks, like pumice or perlite. This simple step breaks up the thick dust and builds open-air paths that keep your roots healthy for years. Mistake number 2, adding regular sand to help with drainage. When you're building your own potting mix at home, grabbing a bag of play sand or beach sand feels like the smart move. Sand feels gritty in your hand, so it seems like it should open up the soil and help your plant breathe. It won't, it actually chokes the roots. Fine sand grains are tiny, smaller than 1/4 millimeter. When you water your pot, those little grains wash down and squeeze into the air pockets sitting between your bigger soil particles. This is called siltation. Once the soil dries out, those trapped grains lock together tight. Your soft, loose mix turns into something closer to a solid brick. Your succulent's roots can't push through that. There's a second problem if that sand came from a beach. Unwashed beach sand carries salt. That salt pulls water straight out of your plant's cells, almost like reverse suction. You end up chemically burning and dehydrating your succulent from the inside out, even when the soil is wet. You can easily avoid this trap. Skip fine sand completely. When formulating your soil, use angular builder's grit instead. Look for grains between 1.5 and 4 millimeters, more like small stones than powder. These bigger, rough pieces stay separate. They can't lock together. Instead, they create wide open paths for water to drain through fast, and they keep your roots breathing for years to come. Mistake number 3, reusing old soil from a plant that died. A plant didn't make it, and instead of tossing that soil, you saved it. It looked fine, dry, crumbly, nothing obviously wrong with it, so you used it again for your next succulent. That decision might be why your new succulent is struggling. Old soil isn't neutral. It's a record of everything the last plant went through. If that previous succulent had any kind of root rot, the soil can still be holding onto dormant spores from pathogens like Pythium or Phytophthora, the organisms responsible for that soft, black root decay. These spores don't need much. They can sit quietly in dry soil for months, waiting for the next round of watering to wake back up and attack a fresh root system. On top of that, old soil can harbor root mealybugs, tiny pests that live underground and coat themselves in a waxy white film. Their eggs can survive in neglected soil long after the original plant is gone, ready to infest whatever gets planted next. There's also a slower issue. Reused soil tends to carry a buildup of mineral salts left behind from past watering and fertilizing, which can interfere with how well a new plant absorbs nutrients. The rule here is simple and non-negotiable. Start fresh every time you're planting something new. If you're reusing the container itself, scrub it out and sanitize it with a diluted bleach solution first. Old soil belongs in the garden bed outside, never back in a pot with a succulent depending on it. 3 down, and if you've made even one of these mistakes, don't feel bad. Almost every succulent owner has, but the next one is different from the rest. It's the one mistake that has probably killed more succulents worldwide than every other cause combined. Mistake number 4, layering rocks or gravel at the bottom of the pot. Here it is, the one passed down for generations, the advice your own parents probably gave you, the trick that feels so obviously right that almost nobody questions it. Everyone says to put a layer of rocks at the bottom of the pot to help water drain. It does the exact opposite, and this is the fatal mistake that kills more succulents than anything else on this list. Here's why it happens. Water doesn't fall straight down through soil the way it falls through open air. Fine potting soil grabs onto water and holds it tight, kind of like a damp kitchen sponge. But rocks and gravel are chunky. They have almost no grip on water at all. When you put soil directly on top of rocks, the water moving down hits that boundary line and just stops. The rocks can't pull it down, so the water refuses to cross over. It clings to the soil instead. This creates a hidden, permanent puddle sitting right at the bottom of your soil. Adding rocks doesn't fix drainage. It makes things worse. It shrinks the amount of usable soil in your pot and pushes that wet, soggy puddle higher up, right into the area where your succulent's roots are actually growing. Those roots end up sitting in trapped water. They can't breathe, and before long, they start to rot. The fix is simple. Skip the rocks completely. Fill your pot from top to bottom with one uniform, well-draining gritty mix. This keeps that wet zone as low as possible, safely at the very bottom of the pot, far away from any root that matters. Mistake number 5, never checking or adjusting your soil's pH. This one doesn't get talked about much because it's invisible. Your plant isn't sitting in water, it isn't rotting, and yet it still looks pale, weak, or stuck in place no matter what you do. You assume the soil itself couldn't be the problem since you can't see pH. That assumption is usually wrong. Most succulents want their soil sitting in a slightly acidic to neutral range, somewhere between 5.5 and 7 pH. Inside that window, the nutrients in your soil dissolve properly and your plant's roots can actually absorb them. Push outside that window and something strange happens. The nutrients are still physically present in the soil. Your plant just can't get to them anymore. If you're using straight sphagnum peat as your organic base, your pH can drop below 5, which locks out phosphorus, potassium, and magnesium. Go the other direction with something like pure limestone grit, and your pH can climb above 8, locking out iron and manganese instead. Either way, the visible result looks like a nutrient problem, when really it's a soil chemistry problem underneath it. The fix starts with testing. A simple pH test on your soil tells you where you actually stand. If you need a gentler organic base to start with, coconut coir sits naturally in that 5.8 to 6.8 range, which makes it a safer building block than peat. And if your pH has already drifted, small amounts of garden sulfur pull it down, while garden lime brings it back up. So here's everything, all in one place. Don't trust a bagged cactus mix straight out of the package, always cut it with something coarse first. Keep fine sand, especially beach sand, far away from your soil. Never reuse old soil from a plant that struggled or died. Never, under any circumstances, put rocks or gravel at the bottom of your pot. And test your soil's pH instead of assuming it's fine just because nothing looks obviously wrong. 5 mistakes and every single one of them can be fixed starting with your very next repotting. If this helped you see your own soil a little differently, go ahead and give this video a like. It genuinely helps this channel reach more succulent owners dealing with the same quiet frustration. And I'd love to know which one of these 5 were you doing without even realizing it. Drop it in the comments below. I read every single one. If you enjoyed this, consider subscribing because we've got more plant-specific breakdowns coming just like this one. See you in the next one.